All right, welcome back to another episode of Project M. I am Tanner Guzzi here with my co-host Brandon King.
Hey guys.
And today we have a special guest. Brandon, why don't you introduce Dillon to us since you guys have the better connection. Yeah.
This is my friend Dillon Winspear.
Hey.
We work together. He's got a lot of interesting stuff going on.
Awesome. Okay, so today's show is Brandon's idea. He wanted to bring Dillon on. Dillon and I, we've interacted a little bit. We spent some time together. I think you're a great dude. You're a passable dude.
I appreciate it.
But I'm excited because from the whole purpose of this is Dillon's one of the guys who's in the arena.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And he's a lot of times when you hear about guys who are in the arena, you hear about the guys who are already super successful and they're totally killing it, and it's very easy to find the guy. You also hear about the guys who are like the abject failures,
right?
Who it's almost just kind of comical how much they're trying and it's not working out. And very rarely do you hear about anything that's right in
the
between.
Process, right.
Yeah, in the process. Enter Dillon, because you're putting in the time. You've attained a level of success. You're on a trajectory to get more. And so it's not like, dude, you should like hang up the hat. This is not going anywhere.
I thought for a second that's where you guys were going. I was like, wow, I got blindsided.
We want to introduce you guys to a failure today.
You asked for softballs.
Whoa.
No, but you're obviously at a different stage
switch.
than a lot of people. You're not at the glamorous phase yet. You're not right? And so that's kind of the purpose and what we want to talk about today. And so we do have a new challenge that's coming up, but we're going to talk about that on the next episode. We're going to go out and do this. Yeah, we're actually going out in a few days for us to get this started. We're excited about that one, and keep an eye out for the episode that's a recap of how the
Bod Pod challenge.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that stupid Bod Pod challenge.
You're so frustrated about it.
Okay. But you guys are going to hear all the details on that after we get going. But we're just going to jump in on this, and it's going to be a good conversation, especially because wherever you are in the arena, there's something that you can learn from. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see Dillon's a little bit further ahead on this than we are, and let's just jump into it. Brandon's going to take the lead on this for us.
So the reason I wanted to bring Dillon in is it is because of the podcast, and I think there's a lot we can learn about what he's doing there and just like the hustle you've got. But when I think about like Project M and what we're doing and being intentional, like one person in my life who I see just like out there doing the right things, taking himself serious and hustling is Dillon Winspear.
Cool.
So I think we can get into the podcast, but first I just wanted to ask, like, do you concur with my assessment of yourself? Like, I see you as someone who's engaged, intentional, out there, like driven in like career, family.
I would like to think so. I mean, and that's not alluding to like if there's success in that or not.
No.
I'm cool with that.
No.
But you're putting an effort to it. You're not sit on the sidelines. I'm just going to kind of endure to the end, and I've checked off the major check boxes, so now I can just coast.
Yeah.
Would you say you're above average in that aspect?
Oh, I mean,
come on, don't be no
false modesty, or you're getting kicked off of our show.
I like to work.
Yeah,
okay.
I've never been afraid of work. There's been a life quote that I was told a long time ago, which is "You make your own luck."
Yeah,
and that's kind of been my motto. Is like, you can get out there and do something about it.
Yeah.
So I like to work hard at it and learn from my failures and keep going. But
okay. So for the sake of our audience, why don't you tell us about all the things that you've got going on? Your show, work, family,
is this the humble
your
brag
projects.
Part?
Yeah, no, seriously.
It's the brag
tell us,
part.
the brag part. Tell us about all the things you're making happen.
It's okay. So obviously we work full time at Domo. So I do the UX full time. I teach part time UX night classes. I've been running the podcast for a year and a half.
And what's the podcast?
It's called Design Today, and it's geared towards helping UX designers who are trying to establish themselves in the industry.
Cool.
I work on freelance projects. I've been freelancing for 8-9 years. I've got a handful of irons in the flame, trying to get other startups off the ground. And
you're working on a cabin.
I tried to escape the house and the office, and we bought a cabin 2 years ago.
Cool.
And rebuilding this. I mean, it's a shack in the woods. So it's nothing worth putting in a magazine or anything. But we're upgrading it.
Cool.
It's getting there. And then obviously the most important thing to me is I've got a wife and I've got 3 kids. And
Sweet.
They all just had birthdays this last month, so they're 7, 5, and 2.
They're all packed within 1 month.
And my birthday too. So
wild.
We have 4 birthdays in 3 weeks.
That's quite the month.
Yeah.
So a lot of things going on. So like. Do you intentionally I don't want to say busy, but I mean, is it just like you just like to keep going, and if you don't have this many things going, or like what drives
what's the drive on that?
You know what, guys, and this is like, I don't know if this is going to take this in the direction that you want to go with it, but
we don't have a direction.
Yeah. It's funny because I was just asked this question from one of my students who I teach. They're like, Dillon, you got so much going on. I'm just trying to balance school and work and my family. How are you doing what I'm doing? I'm like, listen, like, it's not all peachy as it looks.
Right.
Like, you don't see what's happening behind the curtain. You don't see my struggles. You don't see my weekly therapy. Like, you don't see a lot of this stuff. And so I think like the hustle mindset is like, there's a certain like glam to it, right? Like, it's people want to be known for like, I got my side hustle.
Right.
And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it comes with baggage, and you just got to be willing to deal with that.
Right.
And so, I'm learning as I'm going. I'm evaluating and then struggling through it too.
But do you have a conscious why? Like, why do you put up with the baggage that comes with it? Like something's driving you. Like, there's
in my mind, I've always been, I guess, raised from an early age to have like financial freedom. And I think that's what initially drove me down this path. Was I got married and I didn't want to put my wife and I on the street. So it's just like, time to hustle and make things happen.
Yeah.
So you work and then you side project to make additional income, and you save for the rainy day basically.
Now, does your wife work?
She does. She's a
home full time.
Yeah,
Awesome.
she stays at home with the kids.
great.
Well, that's very similar to my own kind of experience, because I think, were I still single, if I didn't have a wife and 4 kids that I were responsible for, I would be very content with probably just a regular like 9-to-5 job with decent benefits, some autonomy, good vacation, and I don't know, you make $50,000 a year, and as a single dude, that's probably pretty good. Yeah. But for me, all of those other responsibilities, from a health perspective, from a spiritual perspective, from financial, from how am I going to teach my kids, all those other things, that's kind of rocket fuel for my own self-development and my own self-improvement. So it sounds like that's very similar.
Yeah, it's funny because I've thought of the same thing. If I didn't have a wife and kids, would I still be doing this stuff? And I actually could probably go the opposite. I probably would be doing a lot more.
Interesting.
Of it.
Cool.
Yeah. And that's probably just because I pulled back a little bit, because I think morally, like the standards that I want to live, I do want to put my family and kids first.
Right.
And so I feel like it's actually, I've got to swing and give more balance to the family, because if I didn't have that, I go full on addicted to work.
Gotcha.
Because I enjoy it. I appreciate that stress. I appreciate betting on myself. But I also know, my kids are only this age once. And so it's just like, I got to swing back and go the other way.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about design today.
Yeah.
So what we can relate a lot to that as we're getting started. What made you want to start that? And
I was trying, again, this is just trying to improve my situation.
Mm-hmm.
I had done 3 different startups that had varying degrees of success. I had just landed at Domo, but prior to Domo, the startup I was at shut down. I went in to work at 8 a.m. on a Monday, and I was gone an hour later. And they had closed the doors, everyone packed up, and that was that.
Wow. Okay.
The whole shop shut down.
The whole startup
Game
was
over.
gone. Yes.
Yeah.
The founder pulled funding, and that
Turn
was
the
it.
lights off.
They literally
Good run.
said, it was funny because I was going camping that week. And so I was only going in to check on my team, make sure they were settled for the morning and for the week. And so I went in, I was going to be there for an hour, and I grabbed my stuff. And right before I walked out, the CEO was like, "Hey, we're going to have a company meeting real quick." I'm like, for the love, I've got to go. And he pulled us all in. He said, "You can grab your stuff and head out. We're gonna close doors."
Jeez.
And so I got in the car and I went home, and I was like, on my way home, my wife's like, "Well, you're gonna have a great week." And I was like, "No, I'm on my way home for good. I don't have a job." And so that terrified me so much that when I started at Domo, I was like, I'm not gonna be in the position of figure it out now, when it's too late. So I said, how do I start building my own brand, my own reputation, getting out there, networking, meeting new people, so that if it happened again, I could get on my feet quickly.
You're ready.
And I suck at blogging. I suck at doing that kind of stuff. So I was like, how can I document what I'm learning so that if somebody Googles Dillon Winspear, they can find something of value. And so I said, you know what, let me just record it. And that was the start of the podcast.
Awesome. That's similar to,
yeah, very similar to what I went through
to
with Masculine Style.
What happens when people Google Tanner Guzzi?
Absolutely.
Right?
For me, it was my ex-wife running my name through the mud. And so I had to counter all that.
Sure.
And because I had been writing Masculine Style pseudonymously,
Yeah.
and decided, well, I need a good positive online presence.
Yeah.
And so it was very much that proactive. It is, I hate the term, and most people hate the term. I guess it's cliche to hate the term, but it's personal brand building.
Right.
Where you are, And in a lot of ways, you're anti-fragile that way, where you no longer, okay, let's say that your company does decide to shut doors. You're not nearly in as precarious a position as somebody else who hasn't built up their skill set, their network, their ability beyond just, do I come in and do a good day's work for this particular company?
Yeah. And someone who's listening may think it's a cliche to talk about personal brand building, but you can ignore it, but it's still there.
It's still there. And it's still, that's important now today more than at any other time because we have easier access to other people than we would have ever had.
I mean, think like, Brandon and I have done a handful of interviewing of candidates recently at Domo, and how often do we just pull them up on Instagram and pull them up just to see what they're up to, and then look at a couple candidates and be like, wow, whoa, they're interesting.
And it's interesting what you see, like, because sometimes you see some people that a lot of people would think like, what a weirdo. And it's like, no, I need to get that guy in here.
Yeah,
like,
sometimes it's either way, right?
Yeah.
I just want to see who these people are, and they're going to find it regardless.
Right.
So are you curating that or not?
Cool.
Yeah. Cool. So maybe talk a little bit about, as you've started your podcast, so you just hit 60 episodes.
60, I think we get 60 scheduled. I can't remember. I think we're somewhere between 55 and 60.
I think you were 57
okay.
when I just looked. So just over a year. Is that right?
Year and a half.
Ish. Yeah.
Because you're putting them out once a week?
Once a week, but I actually did a test run. So I did about 5-6 episodes, and then I took the summer off.
Okay.
And at the end of the summer, I was like, I do like it.
Right.
I'm going to keep going.
So kind of a season one, and then you jump into it.
And then it was like September of last year that I've gone every week since.
Cool.
Okay. So maybe talk about like the challenges. I want to see if there's something that we can relate to, like just getting going, like personal challenges, like if you had any...
Yeah, how are you building your audience? How are you... Yeah.
Not only that, but like we talk about the arena, and do you understand like being in the arena and like stepping into the arena?
Sure.
Like any like, I don't want to say like self-doubt or like any
imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome, or like why should anyone listen to Dillon? Like, did you just struggle with any of that?
Totally. Yeah. And one of the guys that I actually listened to that kind of helped encourage me to get past it was just like, you're not necessarily, you got to understand your why, right? Mm-hmm. And my why was I'm doing it for myself. I'm doing it for my own content creation.
Yeah, it's not you're going to be YouTube famous and you're trying to build this big brand and change the world and start a movement.
I was not looking at it like that. Yeah. And so then I thought, and if one person finds it interesting, cool. Yeah. But that's not my goal.
Yeah.
And if two people, whatever, like that's not my goal. So my goal is just to start, curating my own content. But then I started getting things out the door and it kind of caught on. It still continues to catch on, and my goals have now changed, but no, it was just very humble beginnings, right?
Yeah.
I think the other thing, I don't know if this is what you were kind of getting to. I think one of the things I learned at the very beginning is that I still wasn't 100% convinced that I was committing to it.
Right.
And I didn't want to hold myself to, I'm doing a weekly podcast. I'm doing a bi-week. Like I never told anybody how often I was going to do it. I said, I'm going to do it when I do it. Yeah. Just like I would write an article on my website or something. I'll do it when I do it. And that helped alleviate a lot of pressure too.
Right. No, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Or like for me starting this, like there's just a lot of paralysis. Like, and I think we're going to do an episode in the future. I want to about self-doubt and just like, I hate that term, self-doubt. But just like
it carries its own baggage in
the paralysis of just like the thoughts that enter your mind. Like no one cares what I have to say. I don't care what I have.
I still deal with that. I still deal with that. And it's funny because now that I kind of have rolled some steam into the podcast and some episodes have a lot more success than others, I look at those bad episodes and I'm like, why, guys? Respect that one. I liked that one.
Right.
And, sometimes it doesn't happen, but that's when I have to pull back and be like, but still, 50 people listen to it. Yeah. That's pretty cool in and of itself. Mm-hmm. And so, I kind of go and find like, all right, I'm good.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So there's there's the internal like doubts, but there's also like the haters out there, right? And have you dealt with any of that? Or do you hear I
had a dislike on my video once.
But not even necessarily. I think because especially the guys who are our audience are not necessarily like wanting to be content creators. And so it's not necessarily the hate as far as dealing with internet comments or things like that. But even the people who are in your real life where it's just like, dude, why are you doing a podcast? Who do you think you are? And a lot of times it would be nice if it were that direct. Right. But there's a lot more passive aggression to that. And then people treat you differently, or Mr. Delusions of Grandeur, or why are you so big on yourself?
Yeah.
Have you experienced anything like that?
Yeah, a little bit. And I think one time I walked in on someone making fun of me. And it was really awkward.
Beautiful.
It was really awkward because then they tried to tell the joke and then hope that I would find it funny too.
Right.
But it stuck with me. Not like it hurt my feelings, but now I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I want to say it actually, because then you guys will have it in your head too. But it was just like, yeah, I get it, And then you go to like, we were at Silken Slopes and somebody made a comment about like, anyone and their dog can start a podcast. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that was me too.
Yeah.
And all right, well, is that becoming, too cliche now to start
Yeah,
a podcast?
but I think a lot of that is like a sour grapes attitude,
I
where
agree.
it's like I'm not willing to get in the
Right.
arena, put myself out there. So what do I do to justify
Shame the
that?
people
I got to
who are doing
criticize
it.
other people who
Exactly.
decide that they're going to do it.
No, I was in that boat, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring it up, is because when I first saw what you were doing, I was a little bit like, what? Like, what? Okay.
What does he have to say?
And then as soon as we started...
That's a totally normal and valid
I was-
thing. I think until anybody reaches a certain point of success, or you're trying to do it yourself.
Or I wasn't doing anything. And then
Right.
I've talked before about like a big reason I'm doing this. I read that Gary Vee book, right? Like that's what
Yeah.
I read that book and I was like, shoot, Dylan's doing all the right stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
We probably read the same book.
yeah, we did. I'm sure we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh, he's just doing it. Like I can have after reading this, I can have nothing but respect for what he's doing.
And at the same time, like, I don't think that my listeners ended up being my close friends.
They never are.
No. And
No,
so,
your parents don't listen to this. Your friends don't listen. That's how it is for us.
Yeah.
Brandon's wife
Yeah.
is still, it's cute. She's still at the point where she listens.
My
My
wife-
wife hasn't listened to me for years.
we were painting and I walked in and my wife was listening to my podcast. I was like, play the YouTube video 5 times. Get that count up too.
But you're right. For the most part, it's not your friends.
No,
it's not
it's
your
not.
family. It's a totally different audience of strangers.
And so like I still do it because I enjoy it at this point. I'm not doing it for, and honestly, in your position of watching me start it, you and I have known each other for so long, so that you see him starting, you're like, what's he got so special that he's starting?
Right.
But when I get like, I just got another message on LinkedIn this week. Hey, thanks so much. I've been applying your tips and I just landed my first, and I don't even know this dude.
Cool. That's perfect.
And I'm just like, that's dope.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I didn't
no.
start this with that intention, but if that's the effect that it's having and it's
Oh, yeah.
helping one person, cool. I like that.
Well, and I love that translates into so much more than just creating content, because that translates into how you interact with your kids and how you expect them to treat people when they're out in public,
Yeah.
or how you build a group of friends and make things happen that way, or how you treat people at work and are you willing to be kind but also set boundaries. And there's so many different ways that you can put yourself on some sort of a precarious limb as opposed to just going with the flow, and you're doing it for very different reasons. But when people are positively impacted by that, it's a nice little boost that
Yeah.
comes with it.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I might just like break down if someone told me that. I don't know.
Well, just wait, because it's going to happen. Yeah.
We'll see. Who knows? Okay, so maybe swinging a little bit away from the podcast, unless do you have any other questions
No.
about another thing. Sorry, I'm just gonna like flatter you or what? I don't know what it is. Like
Puff
compliment.
my
Yeah, here they come.
feathers.
So the other thing I've noticed that you're really good at is at work and just kind of like your presence at work and not being afraid to like contribute and just like be yourself, give your opinion, and like let it go, right? Like, because I don't know, I face a lot of intimidation or just like hesitancy. Has that presence that you have? And I think a lot of guys probably could use some tips in this area, just like how to speak up, how to be assertive, and they have good ideas but don't know how to put them forward, how to get there's a lot of whatever you want to call it, bureaucracy or just like clout or these invisible walls.
Or why
like,
should I say this? Because there are a million other people who are already thinking
or
the same
look
thing.
who's in the
or-
room. I don't know that I can speak up here.
Right.
Is that something you developed or I don't know.
Yeah. So first thing I wanted to say is it's a double-edged sword.
Okay.
Right?
How so?
Well, okay. I grew up, I've got 5 older brothers. And so at the bottom of the totem pole, you've got to speak up, right? And so I've also watched my older brothers, bring out different personality traits and characteristics. I got some brothers that are very outspoken, some that are very reserved. I've got a brother who's very outspoken and it gets him into a lot of crap, and
Yeah, that's me.
and so I'm also aware of that, is that, Dylan, you got to kind of temper some of the things that you want to say. But at the end of the day, I go back to, you make your own luck.
Yeah.
And I could sit back passively and be acted upon, or I could act for myself. And that's kind of the mindset.
Boom. Yes.
But it's
agents of action,
yeah.
not just objects that are acted upon. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And So it's one thing to think that, right? Like that's true. Like there's truth there. Is it just that easy? Like
I don't know. I mean, there's.
Have you found it's gotten easier?
It totally has gotten it. Dude, I remember like at Domo, getting into some of the meetings with executives, dude, I would sweat bullets. Like even if I had something I wanted to say, I'm still terrified to say it in front of the certain people. But it gets easier because you've built relationships and you get to know people. But still, like, I tell you, when I go to like a party or when I'm like with a bunch of other people, I'm not that way.
Yeah.
I'm the quietest dude at a party.
So it's kind of domain dependent for you.
Yeah, and
some mastery there, right? Like
Yeah, you've learned the skill set of doing it in certain contexts and around certain people, because it's very different to speak up in a meeting when you're talking about shared goals than it is to try to entertain people or kind of grease palms or whatever.
And
it is
I'm not
that you're doing
good
in a
at
social
that thing.
situation, right?
And I'm very aware that I am not good at social situations. That's part of the reason that I bail out on our company activities and stuff is because I don't like it. I'm uncomfortable. I don't like to do that.
And it's probably just because you haven't developed the skill set.
Yeah, no, I lack that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, a lot of us do. Okay, good. I think that's great. I think a lot of good stuff that you've shared with us. Very talented.
Well, I want to contribute a little something to that idea
going.
because I fall into that same category too. And you almost, like you were saying, it's a double-edged sword because I wonder how many of our listeners or viewers fall more on our side as opposed to the side, because I'm this way. And granted, I'm a company of one. So for me, I experience most often when it comes to like being at church, and I have to like, okay, dude, you can make 3 comments today. That's it. Shut up. You're not the teacher. Like you have to kind of, and so there is, again, a skill set. You can overcorrect on going in either direction, because we've all been in meetings with the guys where it's like, dude, just shut up and let them finish the meeting.
Right. So let me ask you a question. Do you think of that when you're in the meetings? Like, do you think like I have a personal quota?
That's what you're saying, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yes, is I have to artificially rein myself in because otherwise I could just go off and I can monopolize a meeting or a class I even have to kind of, Brandon and I are doing this welding class right now, and it's hard for me to just like, okay, you don't need to make a comment, you just shut up and let him listen, and then you can ask him after whenever. And so I have to kind of rein it in the other way.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you too.
It seems like though, on a whole, people could be more assertive. I think, generally. Like I know I could be more assertive,
and we get so afraid of being in the territory where we are,
right?
Especially because I know that there are people at church who's like, "Oh, Tanner's raising his hand again. What's this comment going to be?" And that's where, you've been in that camp.
I don't know that some people, I don't know.
Right, for some people, and that's what's hard because everybody, you
just never know if you're that guy.
Exactly, and you have to be comfortable understanding that. Regardless of the situation in which you find yourself, somebody is going to think you're that guy. And it doesn't mean that you're actually that guy. It just means that they think that you're that guy.
Right.
Yeah. And that can help with a lot of assertiveness where it's just like, and it's kind of this false narrative and it's a little bit of like stupid ego, but it's like, if this is awkward, it's because you're the social idiot, not me.
Right.
But I also think that it speaks to like your level of like social intelligence, like your self-awareness, the ability that you've had to assess your own standards. I actually don't think most people do that.
True.
And so I don't know if like the people who are very outspoken, I actually don't know if the majority of them know they're outspoken. Like they know they're that far out there.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. Or they just kind of take it for granted and assume that like this is just how everybody is.
Right. And I mean, then going to flipping the other side, I go, yeah, you could speak up a lot more.
Yeah.
Because you've got a lot of good things to say and the team would look at you to hear you more often.
So what stops you from doing it?
Oh, fear.
Fear.
It's just,
Yeah,
what
fear of
though?
Your ideas being
I don't know that it's
rejected,
rational, right? Like, I don't know that I
Totally.
could tell you exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, being shut down, saying something stupid, embarrassing myself. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Yeah, what people think in general, I think that's where a lot of it comes from.
Gotcha.
And I acknowledge that a lot of it is just that kind of fear. And then if I could think, like, I agree with your statement, right? Like, you make your own luck. You got to go out there. You've got to take risks. Sure. That all makes sense.
Yes, it all resonates.
It all makes sense. And then I get in the meeting. Again, I'm there and I'm talking in front of the executive, and it's just like it'd be a lot easier. It's so much easier just to not say anything. Like if I don't say anything, I'm going to get out of here just fine, and things will skate along status quo. But I mean, that's what happens with risk, right? Like I mean, there's always.
I also measure my comments by like my level of confidence in it too, because there's sometimes where I will be like itching to say something, and as I start to evaluate what I was about to say, I'm like, it doesn't need to be said.
Yeah.
You know, somebody else has said something close enough to it, or something. You know, even today when we were in our team meeting, somebody else made a joke that was pretty similar to the joke I was just about to say. So I'm just like, nah, I can eat that one.
good.
Like, I don't need to say it.
Yeah. Which again,
Some people
speaks
wouldn't.
to a level of social intelligence where it's not just, well, okay, I got to make the joke. I need the attention. It's like, no. That was, the contribution was made. Cool, that guy did it. I don't need to do it now. So yeah,
And sometimes I just go, well, that ship sailed. So
right.
it's just like, I'm good.
We don't need to bring that into where we were talking about half
Right.
an hour ago, so I can feel good about making my
Exactly.
comment.
All right, cool. Good there?
Yeah.
Okay. One last question before we go. You're our first guest, so we've never asked.
Yeah, this is fun.
We've never had like a final question, but let's see. So here, Project M, it's all about manly meaning. I don't know that we've ever actually.
Yeah, we got to figure out the right way.
stated
But
that.
it's basically M is for masculinity, manhood, manliness, but then meaning.
Bringing meaning into your
Right.
life. So to
Yeah.
you, what does it look like? What does your meaningful life as a man look like?
Dude, it's a
big question.
Real
How much
easy,
time do we-
like soft? No, take your
How
time.
much time do we
Dive
have?
into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'll get real personal because I don't know
Do.
who's on the other side of this listening.
Cool.
But one of the things that I started going to therapy for is because I recognized that I was getting such anxiety just in my life for just different reasons. And it was very new to me. Like I didn't grow up feeling anxiety. I never felt social anxiety. I never felt the stress and pressures. Like it really only hit like around 27, 26, 27.
Yeah.
And it was new to me, and I couldn't put like a finger on what was happening. And then my dad made a comment to me one day when I was coming home from work, and I had all my hustles going on, and one of my hustles was also my yard, right? I love a well manicured yard. And so my dad's like, "What are you doing tonight?" I was like, "Well, I'll probably spend the next 2 hours, mowing the lawn." And he goes, "Well, all right, well, just remember Jameson's only 5'1".
Oh man.
It stung. It stung so bad. And I recognized like I need to fix this. And I've read a lot of articles talking about like work addictions and that kind of stuff, and how some people are really addicted, just like they would be addicted to, other substances or whatever else.
Right.
And I don't want to compare like a work addiction to some of like the more damaging
Heroin,
addictions.
yeah. Right.
But I'm saying like to some people, there is I can't escape it yet.
Right.
And when I started getting to therapy, one of the things that they helped point out to me is like, Dillon, you stand for family first. You stand for wanting to be a father and a husband, but you do work. So what you're doing and what you want to be doing aren't matching, and that's what's causing anxiety in your life.
Yeah, there's that dissonance there.
Exactly.
Makes a lot of sense.
And so why don't you just start doing what you want to do? And it was 4, 5, 6 weeks of therapy after that I was just like, I don't know why I'm still here, because at this point it's on me.
You got it. Yeah.
It's on me to go make this change. And I could either
UPS man, thank you for dropping off the
thanks.
package.
Thank
Continue.
you. Here we are.
I could either, continue to just feel the anxiety and stress about it, or I could start to do something about it. And so I stopped going to therapy for a bit. I started figuring out, okay, how can I pull back? And so currently I am still trying to figure that out. I'm trying to pull back on some of those projects. I'm trying to pull back and go like, okay, really, where do you want to put your time? So what is masculinity or manliness or morals or whatever we're calling the M?
Yeah.
I think it's just about finding balance. And for me, it's in finding joy in like the moment, which for me at this point in my life, it's my family, it's my kids, but I also have a career that I'm very passionate about. Mm-hmm. And so I've got to maintain a balance to it.
Cool.
Awesome. Great answer.
Cool. Awesome.
Cool.
Okay, so where can guys find you?
I just say reach out on LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter.
Okay, what are your handles on Instagram and Twitter?
Instagram, it's Dillon Winspear.
Okay.
Or I've got a design one. If you're interested in checking out more visual design, it's Winspear Designs. Twitter, Winspear. But I'd also say check out the YouTube if you're a designer, want to learn more about UX in that space. The YouTube channel is called Design Today. The podcast is called Design Today.
Yeah, and I would even encourage you guys who aren't necessarily into design to go check it out, because again, Dillon's just such a good example of somebody who's doing it, putting in the work, and I love just from the stuff that I've seen, there is a level of polish, but it's not so overly polished that in a lot of ways that's the kind of stuff that can feel intimidating from the guys who are on such a whole different level. And again, you're not down here where it's like, dude, just stop.
Yeah.
But again, you're also not way up here, and so in a lot of ways it's very attainable or emulatable or something else like that for guys who are trying to get started, and whether that's content creation or just because I think a lot of times we get so hung up on I have to be at this level of competence, and if I can't get there really quickly, then it's not worth doing anything. And you have to go through all these steps to get there, and you're right in the middle of that, and it's really cool to see what you're doing and what that looks like.
Yeah, there's not you don't have like cameras on tracks or anything running special shots, but there's a level of pride in
Absolutely.
your work that
Yeah,
is
it doesn't just look like
noticeable
it's a run and gun with a cell phone.
Yeah,
and
definitely anyone could learn from.
Right.
Yeah, I'll also just throw out I do believe that I believe in genuineness and transparency, and so if there's any questions or anything that additionally we can talk about, I'm not one to hide the facts, even if they're ugly. So if anyone needs to have those additional chats, I'm happy to chat.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, and thank you guys for watching. Let us know what you thought, any questions, and we'll make sure that we have links and everything so that you can go check out Dillon's stuff, and we will talk to you guys on the next episode.
Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
guys.